Hello there, everyone. So, welcome to some faction overviews. So, basically, I've already played all of the single factions um, for at least 10 turns, or at least the necessary time to realize what will happen in the early game. So, let's jump into it. I would like to show you. So, from the beginning, let's start with the faction of Gondor. So basically, already some things that you can see immediately. The long campaign rules are, imply a very long campaign for Gondor. Actually, they need to hold 50 regions and eliminate 3 factions, which are pretty much, nearby, but still very dangerous to them. So let me show you what happens here. Just a brief overview. By the way, I will be staring at my notes here just to let you guys know. So this is just basically faction overview, as I've told you. Now, what am I reviewing in terms? I'm just reviewing basically the victory conditions, the starting location, then the military in terms of early, late units, and the relation between cost upkeep, then the finances if they have a good early income, and if there is an easy or hard start in terms of finances. That's what we're talking about. For instance, easy finances would be someone that is not surrounded by enemies, a faction that is not surrounded by enemies. We also get a brief overview in terms of generals and the starting generals and the starting agents. So let's get into this. So Gondor, of course, we start with a lot of places. This is also it's also good to point out that if you start with Gondor, you're probably going to have to build a lot of watchtowers just to be sure that there's no, no engagements, no surprises. You already start with, some rebels nearby. You gotta be careful about them. But let's check out the early stuff. So, victory conditions and starting location. So basically, in terms of diplomacy, we are already at war with basically everyone that we are going to face. We are allies with Dol Amroth and Rohan. And in terms of the victory condition, we need to hold 50 regions and eliminate the capitals of, basically the 3 factions. This is becoming a trend in this 1.2 version of Divide and Conquer. So, since we have to eliminate Shadow of Mordor, Hollow Dreams tribes, and Haven of Umbar, we have to capture the capitals of those places. I'm just going to show you, if I'm not mistaken, Harad's capital is nearby. There we go. That is Fanovel. And we also have the knowledge of Umbar's capital, which is actually called Umbar as well. Now, in terms of the early game, it's just to explain, in terms of the overall, sorry, not yet into that. In terms of the overall campaign, of course, it's going to be a very large and long campaign, and you will suffer early attacks on your shore. Either Pelargir, Fanuland, and specifically Londgalen might suffer some attacks from the Corsairs, so you might want to defend yourself there. Idelhond, which is a city nearby here. I can actually send just a general to check that out, to show it to you. By the way, we do have good mercenaries, but I'll talk about that. This city only has 3 bandits, and it gets taken, at least in my overview, it gets taken in around 5 turns at least, so it does give you some time to reach it and to conquer it. So that is basically what happens. Of course, you will suffer attacks from Mordor, but in terms of an overview, this is what I wanted to talk about. So, in terms of military, we do start with very early good units, and when I mean early good units, I mean that you actually have access to good units. Have access to the Athelian Rangers, which is pretty much the archer unit that you'll be fielding throughout the game. And you have also access to some Gondor militia, which is not that bad of a unit. You also start with good unit production capabilities, because you can already produce even Fountain Guards, Gondor infantry, Gondor spearmen, peacekeepers, Gondor cavalry. You start with basically the ability to recruit every single kind of infantry unit. And you are able actually to recruit even more Athelian Rangers. So, basically, in terms of the early military, is one of the most advanced ones. You also have very good late game units. Let me show you the building browser here. Not this one. Okay, in terms of the castle, you know, if you're viewing in a city, this is a small trick. If you're viewing in a city, it will only show you the next levels. But if you change to the castle, it will show you every single level that you can reach. And as you can see, you're pretty much going to be able to recruit, you know, up to Citadel Guard, and Gondor Infantry and Gondor Spearmen, which basically that's all that you need. You need a hack and slash unit, you need a unit to hold on the line versus anything that comes up, which is the Gondor Spearmen for this instance. And maybe you would like some infantry units that would, you know, give um, some assistance versus you know, act like assistance versus armored, but you do have them. You can recruit them in Kanazas, by the way, which is this guy's unit. You can recruit them here, which are the Losanak Axemen. Pretty much in themselves already a good unit, but you know, effective against armor. This is all that you're going to need, and you can recruit them in this nearby area. I believe Brithil can actually recruit them, or Pelargir. Well, Pelargir can recruit some Lebanon guardsmen, which are already effective against armor, which is, you know, basically all that you need, guys.
Awaiting your command.
So in other information, you also have access to to some forts nearby. That helps out a lot in terms of upkeep, but I would advise you, and moving a little bit along, I would advise you to concentrate on the specific buildings that will help you out. Governor quarters, beyond providing some generals bodyguards, do provide a lot of stuff. You know, basically there's never a bad reason, never a reason not to build this one, you know. By the way, you can also have some fiefdom barracks. This is a specific building that allows you some interesting units. These are basically all the units that it can recruit around. And it will allow you to build them already in Minas Tirith. I think there's some other places that allow that, but you'll get to see that as well. Okay, so in terms of cost and upkeep, we do have what do I call an average relation. So what is that? Basically, you know, when you have units that are under 200 in upkeep, that is actually good. But you only have the Archer Militia that is actually under 200, or the Territorial Guardsmen, which aren't really that good. I mean, they can hold on against medium cavalry, for instance, up to medium cavalry. But most of the time you will want to field these guys. So a mix between militia troops and the heavy troops, the good troops, will be required, which means that you'll have like an average relation. Of course, you also can support it, so I'm taking that into consideration. If not, it would be a bad relation because they are very expensive units. I'm going to show you just, for instance, in terms of the Athenian Rangers, they're very versatile. You can actually check the range. They're very good. Very high accuracy in this range just means that you will always field these guys whenever possible. Alright, so, but as you've seen, of course, the upkeep is important there. So, in terms of the income, I will advise something very interesting. So, the first thing that you gotta build is these mines, specifically here in Kalanhat. I believe you also have good mines. Let me check that out. This is 150. I think it's Iraq. Yeah, there we go. So as soon as you can, build those up, because that will provide immediately a good income. You know? Roads and dirt paths, of course, will be important. But of course, you also will require some other troops, such as, you know, heavy cavalry and such. But I would advise, you know, not to spend too much money in units early on, just enough so that you can keep Mordor at bay, and then you can start building up everything as possible. It will require some micromanage. This is another point that I would like to explain. It does require some micromanaging, and you will be defensive at start. Most of it due to the fact that, you know, there will be threats from the north and from the south, and all around your coast. So my advice would be to, you know, try to take care of what you have already. In the first 10 turns, there was no advances of the clans of Enidwaith through this area, but they will come eventually. So you always need some sort of some sort of units here. Just to explain, you do have access to some nice mercenaries here. These Blackroot Vale Archers, they're fairly decent, good missile attack and stuff. And you also start, apologies, with a Blackroot Vale Archer General there. So that is actually quite good as well. So basically, everything from E3, that was my idea, everything from E3 will start producing units to send to this area. And all of these places can just produce the necessary units for you to hang on against Mordor. Now let's talk about generals. Most of the generals are like this guy, which are basically generals' bodyguards. These are very good. They are skilled against mods. You have to consider this because your generals' bodyguards will be in an advantage against the Numenorians from the Black Numenorians from Mordor. But you also have some interesting generals such as Faramir, which is an Ithilien ranger, and you have Boromir, which is basically a 10-star general, by the way, with the Wardens of the White Tower. So basically do note that, for instance, on this mod, Stuart Denethor is not a cavalry unit, it's actually a Citadel Guard. Now, moving along in terms of the generals, just to explain, you start with basically 4 good ones, and I'm mentioning the ones that actually have some sort of special ability, such as, all the major characters from the trilogy. This has leadership, and you also have this guy, if I'm not mistaken, he has leadership as well. So, if you join up all of the generals, you'll actually have 3 major infantry units alongside a very good archer units. Oh, that is cool. Of course, you also have the other generals. You start with plenty of them that you can use and take care for anything that you would like. But the cavalry ones, of course, I would always use a couple of them in order to combat Mordor as well. You also start with 1 spy exactly where you need him. I mean, you will always need a spy to check out how things are here in terms of the Minas Morgul there. You do have you do start against the Black Numenorians of the Witch King of Angmar, of course. But still, you will be able to defeat this army fairly easy with just what you can muster. In my game, I actually started off by not building too much stuff, and not a lot of buildings. As soon as you can get the grainy chains and the great roads, I'll just explain, for instance, that the great roads do provide a lot of income, but still they cost a lot of money. So I would always get them after I get the discounts from the governor's quarters. You also have the 4 town guardhouses. This is a new addition. They provide some basic units and some more recruitment slots. But yeah, that's basically it. Make sure that you get these meeting halls early on in order to get the discounts, and all will be well. So let's make a resume. Mordor will be the first target, of course. If you can capture Minas Morgul, you can pretty much defend only this portion against Mordor, and if you reach the Black Gate, you will then defend against that, and we will pinpoint Mordor. Rushing Mordor sounds like a good idea, but you will have to see what's going on here between Barracks and Harad as well. Sending a diplomat towards them might be a very good idea. I actually built one of the first units that I built was actually a diplomat here. You have access to very good units. The victory conditions are very long. This is a very long campaign. You have to defeat 3 of the most hard factions to defeat. Mordor by itself, Harad as well. And then Heaven of Umbar, it's kind of hard because it's so far away. You will need to send forces here. Probably that will be the last faction, depending on how the campaign goes. And you also have to face off Enidwaith, which will, try to be annoying on this side. I would advise not pushing forward because that will put you against Isengard for sure, but at least holding on the river. there is already one city here. That will be your main point of access. If you want to capture Edelhond, it is possible, but that will weaken Dol Amroth, and it's not a very good city. It doesn't actually provide a lot of income early on. So Gondor's weakness will probably be just the fact that they have so much territory to defend, and you really have to take care of your finances as fast as possible. That's why, as I've said, I advise the construction of the mines. These early mines will help you out. And just focusing on somewhat early basic stuff, such as the militia, archer, and peacekeepers, along with some horsemen, uh, just to make sure that you can survive the early game without going way overboard into very elite, many elite units. So yeah, that is the faction overview for Gondor. Let me know if you guys liked it, or if you'd like to be shorter, or if there's something else that you would like me to address. Well, I can for sure help you out on the comments. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys for the next faction overview. Bye bye.